All right, we'll just jump right into our first question.
Let's do that.
This question is about weights while fasting from Ashley. Hey Rob, first of all, just want to say thanks for all the hard work you do to get a healthy living message out to the world. I loved your book, Wired to Eat, and I just purchased the Keto Masterclass a few days ago. I'm excited to learn more. I have a question about lifting weights while in a fasted state, especially for a non-athlete. I'm fortunate enough to have a really nice gym at my office, and what seems best for me is to use my lunch hour to exercise, usually around 11 a.m. And I'm far from what anyone would consider an athlete, but I've always enjoyed incorporating lifting weights into my exercise routines, which have been very sporadic over the years. I probably average 2 times a week of lifting, but when I do, I try to push myself and lift heavy. Do you recommend I do this in a fasted state? What about taking branched chain amino acids beforehand? I see these marketed mainly toward athletes. Thing is, I do have a lot of fat to lose, so should I even be concerned with lifting right now? Should I focus more on HIIT type of cardio? Also, I want to start incorporating alternate days of fasting. What type of exercise would you recommend on days that I fast all day? Thanks so much for your insights.
Man, there's a lot going on there. So, Ashley, I'm assuming that you're eating breakfast, given that you're saying that you're training at 11 a.m. So I've learned a lot from Tyler and Luis with Keto Gains, and we've actually had some very nice studies done where they look at both the muscle gain and the fat loss in a fasted versus non-fasted state. And I could make the case that if one is an endurance athlete, there's maybe an argument for doing some fasted training. Like it enhances lipolysis and fat mobilization, and you could use it as kind of a block of your periodization. But interestingly, if the individual is fed a bit, you burn more total calories. You have higher total intensity. And so in general, we get better results actually having a little bit of food in the tank than not. And actually, this is one of these things that is a red herring. I'm kind of blanking on that. My side control bottom was also spicy today. We have some very big dudes at the gym, but there's this tendency for women to eschew weights in favor of cardio, and there's also this tendency for women to do only lower body training and not adequate upper body training. I don't know.
I like doing legs.
You do like doing legs, but you have a body above your torso, also above your hip line. So. Man, again, there's just so much stuff going on here. Our exercise should be about making our life better, not necessarily for fat loss or body composition. Other than I could make the case that virtually anybody would benefit from carrying 5 pounds more muscle when you think about the way that we look, the way that we feel, effective aging, all that type of stuff. Like, unless you're...
And it's a hedge against disease.
It's a hedge against disease,
things,
yeah. So think about exercise as the thing that allows you to do the other stuff that you should be doing, not as a place that we're necessarily burning calories. It takes an enormous amount of exercise to burn even a paltry amount of calories, and with a little nutrition foible, you can undo that whole thing.
Right.
Like nuts are great, but man, it's so easy to overdo your caloric content with nuts, and particularly Blue Diamond Smokehouse salted almonds, which I've been known to sit down and eat like a cup of them back to back, which is like 1,000 calories right there. So,
well, she says she enjoys lifting weights, so this is
lift weights as often as you can.
But I guess her main question is, does she do it in a fasted state?
I wouldn't recommend a fasted state. I would recommend a little bit of food, and the fact that so I'm assuming that maybe you're eating breakfast at 7 or 8 a.m. and then 11 a.m. is actually a perfect, you're kind of semi-fasted, but you're not like fasted. The branched chain amino acids are virtually worthless. Tyler and Luis have just bludgeoned me with that. They've really dug into the literature. It's a waste of money, waste of time. Kind of ideal circumstance would be have breakfast around like 7 or 8. You train around like 11, which is what you're doing, and then do a meal half hour, 45 minutes after that, if you can fit that in. That would be ideal. Lift weights as many days as you can. If you want to do some HIIT, go for some high intensity interval training. But, again, I look at that as, you either like it or it's facilitating something you want to do. This is not the stuff that's going to mainly help you lose weight. Being on point with your diet, being dialed in on your sleep, those things will help you affect the body composition change.
So she's asking also about alternate days of fasting, and I know you always go back to like, what is your goal? Like, why do you want to do this? And then, you know, what type of exercise on a day that she would do an all-day fast.
Yeah, so I'm glad you picked up on that. Ashley, I would just ask you, why do you want to do the alternate days of fasting versus dial in a solid ketogenic diet from either Keto Gains or the Keto Masterclass? I'm so impressed with what sound, consistent training and nutrition do, and I'm so unimpressed with these kind of like stopgap measures like fasting. And I wrote my first article on intermittent fasting back in 2005, but by 2006 I was pumping the brakes and kind of backpedaling on it. And now the interwebs are full of stories of people who relate their N=1 experience, that they just couldn't make progress. They just couldn't lean out. They just couldn't lose those last inches or, you know, make it over the hump until they started doing intermittent fasting. And the internet is equally full of people that they were motoring along well, they were making progress, and then the fasting was the straw that broke the camel's back. It was just too much. It kind of pushed them into like an overreaching, overtraining kind of scenario. So I just, as time has gone on, I would love to see something like a time-restricted eating schedule. So you eat between like 8 and 4, 8 and 5, 2 or 3 meals a day. Time that around your training appropriately. I've just grown really unimpressed with, I guess, the cost-benefit analysis with intermittent fasting. And again, some people it's appropriate, but when we look at good exercise and getting out and playing and being active and fueling appropriately, maybe every once in a while dropping in a little bit of fasting just to you know, if nothing else, prove to yourself that you could do it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm hesitant on that stuff.
Well,
yeah.
if building lean muscle mass is part of your goal, then
which it should be.
Alternate days of fasting
is
not going to.
Yeah, it's definitely. Working against that path, because the initial block of fasting is when we tend to lose the most muscle mass, and then it kind of, even under a ketogenic state, we kind of lose a disproportionate amount of lean body mass in that scenario. If you are training on a fasted day, I would do a full body strength training session. Doesn't have to be super hard, but if you, one of the things that will mitigate the loss of lean body mass is resistance training. So yeah, I don't know, man. I would like to see 3 or 4 days a week of smart lifting, a appropriately set up a ketogenic diet with appropriate protein, about 0.8 to 1.0 grams of protein per pound of lean body mass. Get after those big main lifts, hit them in different ways 3 to 4 days a week.
Get out in the sun.
Get out in the sun, play like that.
Just sleep.
Do some jujitsu. Yeah, you know. So yeah. I know we kind of beat that one to death, but yeah.